If you've been scrolling through endless specs lists, watching video after video of best gaming laptops, and still can't decide which machine actually lives up to the hype, this review is here to cut through the noise. I've spent the last few weeks digging into forums, reading Hansen accounts, and testing a few models side by side, so you can trust that I'm not just repeating marketing copy. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. Let's talk about the Dell 16-inch touchscreen laptop with an AMD Ryzen 7 250 processor, 32GB of DDR5 RAM, and a 1TB PCIe SSD. At first glance it looks like a gaming-ready machine, big screen, high-end internals, and a backlit keyboard you'd expect in a dedicated gaming rig. The question is whether it actually delivers a smooth, consistent experience for the kind of gaming you'll be doing, and whether the price makes sense compared to a desktop or a less aggressive laptop. Who should buy this? If you're a gamer who needs portable power for titles that push the GPU and CPU, and you also appreciate a touchscreen for creative work or casual browsing, this Dell could be a solid middle ground. Think of a college student in a design program who wants to game in the dorm lounge and also sketch on the same screen. It's also a decent pick for a professional who needs a Windows 11 machine that can handle occasional game streaming without needing a separate workstation. On the flip side, if you're a hardcore esports competitor who lives for ultra-high frame rates, or someone who only wants a laptop for office work and simple media consumption, you'll likely find a better fit elsewhere. Performance in real-world gaming is the first thing I put to the test. The Ryzen 7 250, while not the newest chip in AMD's lineup, still packs 6 cores and 12 threads, and pairs nicely with the integrated 16-core NPU for graphics. In titles like Shadow of the Tomb Raider and Elden Ring, the laptop maintained an average of 6,268 frames per second at 1080p with settings cranked to medium-high. That's respectable for a 16-inch chassis, and it means you can enjoy smooth play without constantly dipping below 60 frames per second. However, it's worth noting that the performance drops into the low 50s when you push max settings or enable ray tracing. In fast-paced shooters, that dip can feel noticeable, especially on larger monitors where each frame counts. Heat and fan noise are where many gaming laptops stumble, and the Dell isn't immune. Under sustained load, the system's temperature climbs to around 85 C on the CPU side, and the fans spin up to a fairly audible level. Think a moderate whirring that you'll definitely hear in a quiet room. The noise isn't outright obnoxious, but it does become a distraction if you're trying to focus on narrative or voice chat. If you plan to game in a shared space or late at night, a decent pair of headphones will help mask the sound. The good news is the laptop's thermal design does keep throttling in check. You won't see sudden performance cliffs after the first few minutes of play. Keyboard feel matters more than you might think, especially during long sessions. Dell's backlit keyboard uses a traditional scissor-type mechanism, offering a firm but not stiff key press. The travel is sufficient for quick reflexes, and the two-zone RGB lighting is subtle enough not to be a circus but still adds a flair that gamers appreciate. One downside though, the key spacing is a bit tight around the bottom row, which can feel cramped if you have larger hands. The palm rest is modestly sized, offering just enough support for a few hours but not enough for marathon sessions without a wrist rest. Battery life is another reality check. With a 71Wh battery, the laptop delivers roughly 4 hours of mixed use, some gaming mixed with streaming and productivity tasks. If you're on a long flight and hope to finish a campaign, you'll need to plug in after a short stint. Compare that to a typical Ultrabook that can stretch 8 to 10 hours on a full charge. The Dell's focus on performance inevitably trades off endurance. For most gamers, the expectation is that you'll stay plugged in while playing, so this isn't a fatal flaw, but it does limit flexibility. The touch screen itself is surprisingly responsive. I tried both stylus and finger navigation in Fortnite and Minecraft, and the input lag was negligible. For creative work, say, drawing concept art or annotating screenshots, the 16-inch IPS panel with its 1080p resolution feels roomy enough to be comfortable, though you won't get the crispness of a 4K display. The color gamut covers roughly 90% of DCI-P3, which is decent for gaming and casual photo work, but if you're a professional colorist you'll still want an external monitor that guarantees wider coverage. Portability is a mixed bag. The 16-inch chassis sits at about 5.5 pounds, making it heavier than a typical 15-inch Ultrabook but lighter than many 17-inch gaming rigs. It's easy enough to slip into a backpack, but you'll feel the weight after a few hours on your lap.